Hello and welcome to this yoga practice with me, Sophie Rey. Today you might want a couple of mats, a chair and a couple of blocks. And this practice is inspired by simplicity. Now I went in with saying have all your props ready. You might even want a blanket and a pillow because we don't want to scrimp on our props. When I say simplicity, I mean simplifying the yoga asana that we do, so the physical movements, not overcomplicating it with lots of tricky movements or transitions or things like that. Keeping it very simple, very basic, not overcomplicating the breathing practices. Not thinking, do I look awful? Do I have the right mat? Am I wearing the right clothes? And appreciating what we can do. There are going to be things that our bodies don't allow us to do, and that's okay. When you're thinking about your yoga practice, and if that is movement, let's think of it as a way of aging gracefully, of giving ourselves more strength, more mobility, more life, more, a lot more energy to be able to continue doing lots of activities when we want to do them. So you might also think of it as, simplicity can also be decluttering. So especially in the home, a bit like a spring clean. And let's flip that into our yoga practice and think, well, as I'm moving around my mat or as I'm breathing, taking deeper conscious breaths, I'm decluttering from all the stuff that has been put on me, all of the habits, the behaviours, the thoughts, anything that I've picked up over Christmas, anything that I've got going on at the moment. It's a time to process what's going on, but also give our bodies an opportunity to step back, to step away from that. Now yoga does bring up emotions and it does bring up challenging thoughts, and it kind of unlayers things that we might need to process, but also it can be an opportunity to declutter. So think of it as decluttering your body and mind as well, simplifying. So with that, I would say don't have any music on. If you're used to practicing with music, let's simplify what we've got going on around us. Make sure that there are as little distractions as possible. Not always possible, especially if you've got other people in the house or if you're somewhere else, maybe it's quite noisy where you are. It's a good opportunity to practice sensory withdrawal. So acknowledging where your mind is going, acknowledging the sounds that are coming up or the thoughts that are continuously coming up, and then bringing your attention back to one point of focus. Now wherever we are, our breath is. So usually it's your breath, but it could be your hands. So what you're doing with your hands, it could be a connection to the earth, hands or feet. It could be an intention, a word or a statement. So let's first, before we do anything else, we're going to come to stand. Usually we start lying down, but today we're just going to come to stand. And I invite you to start moving. Now if you're on your own, then maybe that feels more comfortable for you, and you can be as expressive as you like. Or maybe it feels uncomfortable even if you are alone, so you're not quite sure and you don't really want to start flailing around. But I really do encourage you to just do what feels right here. Maybe that is shaking your arms and legs. It might be standing quite still and gently flicking fingers, rolling shoulders, maybe rolling your neck. You might be moving through all of your joints. And we'll just start to move in whatever way feels good, and maybe imagining that you are shaking off anything that you are holding on to. Let's start that decluttering process. Maybe you even sweep off your arms, brushing away anything that your body is holding on to. I did a practice with a guy, I can't remember his name now, Daniel Groom, I think, and he did this sweeping action, and I just thought it was the best. And then once you've swept everything away, you just sweep it out the door, and it felt really great. I felt really light afterwards. Maybe take a few deep sighing breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth, and move as much or as little as you like. If you want to do this practice sitting down, you can do it sitting down. You can do it lying on your bed, nice and soft, cushioning underneath you, and you can shake your arms and legs around. You might even walk around your mat forwards and backwards. Let's keep it going. Starting to sense into your physical body. Sensing into your breath. Not worrying about what it looks like, but really sensing into how it feels. Maybe this feels really good. Or maybe it does feel a little challenging and you're feeling a bit restricted. Don't worry, that's perfectly normal. A little bit more. It can be big and expressive. Again, they could just be little movements. It could be a massage, maybe massaging your palms and up your arms. It could be massaging your shoulders if you're feeling quite tense. If you haven't already, let's start to sweep our arms up and overhead. Take a breath in, reach up, plant both feet to the floor, and exhale as you float your arms down. And this might have been one of your movements that you were doing, and that's fine. Let's just take a couple together. Inhale to reach up, exhale, float them back down. You might even look up. And as you float your arms down, you look down. Feet could be together or apart. Just make sure that you feel really grounded and stable. If you're sitting down, same thing. Ground down to your sit bones. Reach your arms up and then float them back down. Arms back down by the sides of your body. Take a breath in, reaching your left arm up towards the ceiling. Find length down the left side of your body, and then on an exhale, let's take a side bend. And you could bring your opposite hand to your hip, or you could just let it hang. Or you could reach up and take hold of your left wrist and guide it over. Thinking about creating space down your rib cage, the side of your waist. And when we create space in our rib cage and we're gently stretching the muscles in between the rib cage, we can breathe deeper as well. So thinking about more space in our lungs. Let's bring it back to center, floating that arm down, and then take a breath in, reach the opposite arm up. Lengthen, and then exhale, side bend. And maybe you're moving a little. So maybe if you were moving quite a lot to start with, that might still be in you. Or if you've just got maybe a little bit of energy that you need to shake off still. I find moving and swaying just very soothing. A couple of deep breaths here. And then bring it back to center, floating your arms down. Reaching your arms out in front and then turning the backs of your hands to touch. And we're going to scoop fingertips down towards the floor and bring them towards your chest. up to the ceiling and then open out. So your palms face forward and your fingertips point down. And then take it back in the opposite direction. Backs of hands meet, fingers turn down, you're reaching your hands forward. Let's do that a couple more times. Take it in different directions. Moving slow or moving a little bit quicker, just making sure that you are breathing the whole time. And then releasing your arms down by the sides of your body. Have a shake out of your arms, maybe roll your shoulders. Have a soft bend in your knees, and then thinking about where your hips are. And we're going to place our hands just to our hip points. Start to bring your chin to your chest. And then start to round through your upper back, so like you're drawing your shoulders forward and then towards each other, almost like a pinching sensation at the front. Obviously they won't come to touch. Start to round through your back. Really start to bend into your knees, and as you're rolling down your spine, start to hinge from your hips. So almost like your fingertips are going to get caught in your hip creases. Allow your hands to slide down your legs as you come into a forward fold. If forward folding deeply doesn't feel right, use the chair for support and come halfway. Let's take a couple of breaths in our forward fold. Let your upper body hang heavy if you're in the full forward fold. Maybe take hold of your elbows. Have a sway from side to side. And then press down through your heels. Let your arms hang heavy and slowly roll up through your spine. Take your time, take as many breaths as you need. Draw your shoulders back, lift your chest, lift your chin, open up through the front of your body now. Take 2 breaths. On an exhale, chin towards chest, shoulders round, rolling forward, rolling down, and coming back into your full forward fold or your half forward fold. And we're going to make our way down to the ground from here. So hands to floor or blocks, or maybe hands to a chair. Stepping one foot back and then the other lowering down onto your knees. And then I invite you to come and lie down on the floor. Or you can stay sitting in the chair, feet rooted to the floor, find a little length in your spine, but make sure you're comfortable. So maybe you're in constructive rest, knees bent, feet a little wider than hips, let your knees knock in towards each other. And bring in one hand to just below your rib cage. So just above your belly button and just below your rib cage. You can have your legs extended if you prefer. But wherever you are, one hand to that space just underneath your rib cage. Now if you're sitting up, might feel slightly different, but still bringing your hand to that space. And then let everything rest. Take a slow, deep breath in, send it down to your hand. Let it out with a sigh. And feel the floor beneath you. Feel that support of the earth. Notice if you are holding on, gripping or grasping anywhere in your body. And take a deep breath into that space. Let it out with a sigh. Feel free to do that a couple more times. And then start to breathe slowly and deeply down towards your hand. And I invite you to just notice if there's any movement there. And this is where our diaphragm is. So as you breathe in, your diaphragm moves down and your belly expands, and that space just below your rib cage expands. And as you breathe out, it gently falls. Your diaphragm's moving back up into that dome shape. So observing this breath and movement, but knowing that it's okay if you can't feel that movement there. Quite a lot of us breathe up into our chest, or we tense our stomachs. So noticing what your experience is right now and observing it with compassion and open-mindedness and curiosity. But this is a really good habit to get into, bringing your hand to that space and encouraging your breath to move down towards your hand. And feeling it as you breathe in, your belly rises. As you breathe out, it falls. It's quite funny because if you've ever said, if you've ever, tried to maybe get into a pair of jeans that you haven't worn in a while, and there's that saying, it's like, oh, breathe in so that we can do our jeans up, we can do the button up. When actually you breathe in, your belly should move out. So it doesn't really make sense, but it's one of those things that we've all learnt, and it's a habit. We breathe in and we expect our stomach to move in, when actually it's the opposite. So we're going to take a few more rounds of breath here, maybe around 5. And you can either count your breath down from 5 to 0. Or if you want to, you can set an intention for your practice. I am decluttering. I am simplifying my life, my practice. I simplify so I can fly. That was Prasad, he a yoga teacher, an educator, and I just loved that. Simplify to simply fly. I feel like I could just stay here. Let's start to bring a little bit of movement back in, swishing knees from side to side. Start to roll your wrists. You might reach your arms overhead and take a full body stretch. Extend your legs, point your toes. And still breathing down to that space just underneath your rib cage. Let's not lose the connection to the breath. Rebend into your knees, place your feet to the floor. Keeping your left foot to the floor, extend your right leg, and we're reaching the toes up towards the sky. And just allow your leg to be heavy. Maybe you give it a little shake. Maybe you rotate your ankle a couple of times and spread your toes. On an exhale, start to float your whole leg down to the floor. Let your heel tap to the earth and then float it all the way back up, and your leg might feel quite heavy. Use your breath, exhale to float your leg all the way down. Inhale as you lift. We'll do that a couple more times. Exhale to lower. Keep your left foot rooted to the floor. Keeping your low back gently pressing into the floor. And then as your leg floats all the way back up, pause there. Just allow it to be heavy once again. Notice any sensations in your hip. So this is really great for strengthening your hip flexors and your thighs. And at the same time, we're gently stretching the back of the leg, the hamstrings, the glutes. It's also really good for your low belly, actually, for creating strength through the lower abdomen. Start to float your leg all the way back down and then scoop your heel towards your bum and then extend your leg up. Float your leg down, heel to bum, and extend. Let's keep it going. Again, start to move with your breath. And imagine that you're riding a bike with just your right leg. The next time your leg floats down towards the floor, pause there, let it rest to the floor. Let your leg be really heavy. And then we're going to take it the opposite way, reaching your leg up, bending your knee, heel to bum, and then you're pushing your foot away down the mat, just keeping it hovered, and we're reversing the action. Now, if you have been sat up in the chair, apologies for missing out the instruction here, but sitting a little closer to the edge, and it'll be slightly different extending it up, heel to floor. So if you're sitting right on the edge and you're just lifting and lowering to a point that feels good, or to a point where you can't go any higher. You can even extend the lower leg. This would be a good one to do standing as well, so holding on to something, rooting down to your left foot, and then lifting and lowering. And you can also do your bicycle ride with the one leg. So some things do work best either standing or lying down. You can also do this practice on your bed, and then you'll be taking it in the opposite direction. But at any point you rest, you tap down, you take a moment to pause. Okay, let's come back to our constructive rest position. Both feet to the floor, but keeping your knees separated. We're just going to go over to the other side. So left leg, extending it up, toes to the sky. If you're standing, you're rooting down through your right foot, lifting and lowering your left leg, or sitting on the edge of your chair and extending your leg out and then lifting and lowering, but it just won't be as high, or it won't be as much movement as if you're lying down, but don't worry about it, that's absolutely fine. Let's keep it going on this side. We're inhaling the leg up and we're exhaling the leg down. You might even keep your hands on your belly so that you've got that connection of stability, and really notice the muscles. What muscles can you feel? You don't have to name them, but just make that connection of brain to body. It's okay if you're not sure. Your leg might be starting to feel a little tired. The next time your leg lifts to the sky, let's keep it there. Let your leg be heavy. You might want to shake out a little. And then float your leg all the way back down. Scoop your heel to your bum, reach your toes back up towards the ceiling, and then float it down. Like you're riding a bike. Use your breath. Float your leg down. Let it rest to the floor just for a couple of breaths. You might give it a shake out. And then let's take it in the opposite direction. Leg comes up, knee bends, heel towards bum, and then pushing your foot away down the mat. And you're riding your bike backwards. Couple more. One more. The next time your knee comes towards your chest, bend your knee and place your foot down to the floor. And then give your legs a gentle swish from side to side. And if you are sitting up, or if you're standing, if you're sitting up, you can come up onto your tiptoes and let your knees flop out. You can sit on the edge and turn your knees inwards, so you're internally rotating your hips, knees point down towards the floor. You can shake your legs out. Of course, you can come to stand and you could take some hip circles. Okay, if you're down on the floor, bringing your knees in towards your chest, giving yourself a hug, maybe one hand on each knee, maybe hands behind backs of thighs. And a rock from side to side, or if you're feeling quite frivolous today, maybe a little rock forwards and backwards. I know I said simplify, but it doesn't mean we can't have a little fun with it. A little bit of play. This is if you want a bit more energy. If you want less energy, a gentle rock from side to side. Now, if you're rocking side to side, roll all the way over onto one side, press through that top hand and roll yourself up. If you're rocking back and forth, let's come all the way up, feet to the floor, knees bent. We're all going to meet in this position. Hands behind the backs of your thighs. Draw your shoulders back, root through your sit bones, and then lift up through the crown of your head. And start to lean back. And how's your breath doing here? So now that we're in this position, we're quite braced. Our core's starting to work. It might feel like our breath is stuck or we can't breathe down towards that space, but bring a bit of awareness to your belly. Remember the job that your diaphragm is doing, creating space, it's drawing down. You can stay here. You can start to lift your right foot away from the floor. You're holding the back of your thigh. You can always use a prop behind your thighs, so a blanket, or to give yourself a little bit more hold, or even a strap. This feels quite nice actually, but yeah, one foot up, one foot down. You can lift both feet if you want to, but just being mindful that we're then not leaning and rounding back. Keep drawing your heart forward, shoulders back. This is slightly more challenging. Maybe noticing if it feels warm, if you can feel heat, if you feel cool. So noticing if it's more cooling or energizing or heat building. Navasana, your boat pose. And let's take 3 more breaths. So wherever you are, I'm going to place my feet down. Breathing for 3, for 2, for 1. Feet back down to the floor if they were lifted. Let's bring fingertips to the floor behind us. Let your knees fall out to the sides. Lift your chest, create space. If you want to lean back on your elbows and extend your legs, you could do that. Or you could bring your hands behind you and lift through your chest, create space down the front of your body. Okay, rebending into your knees. Placing your feet to the floor, we're going to let the knees fall out to the sides. If you've got 2 blocks or 2 pillows, you might want to place them underneath the outsides of your thighs or knees just for a little bit of support. Now remember, you can always sit up on something. So if you feel like you're rounding through your back, rounding through your low back, sit up on a pillow. And then you might need to have some higher props, but this can help to bring in that natural curve in your spine, tilting your pelvis forward slightly so your front body is open. Let's take a moment to pause here. Now, if you are up on the chair, your boat pose, you'll be leaning back and your back might touch the back of the chair for a bit of support, and you can lift one leg and then lift the other. You can lift both, and I've got the chair supporting me. I could be on the very edge and I could play around with not having my back touching the back of the chair. Have a little play around with how it feels. If at any point your hip flexors start screaming at you, give your knees a swish from side to side. Think butterfly wings. Okay, now for Baddha Konasana, bring in a couple of blocks in between your feet. You're bringing your feet up onto your blocks, and then you're letting your knees fall out to the side. So exactly the same thing. We've got the same position, we just haven't got the feet up sort of in line with the hips. So that's why sitting up higher can give you a little bit more length through your spine, more space in the front of your body. And closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Coming back to your breath, if you want to bring a hand to that space above your belly button, you can, just to see if you can sense your breath there. You might even bring a hand to the heart. So if you know, or if you're not sure but you want to explore it, if you're a chest breather, maybe bring your hand to your chest and just notice if you can feel a lift in your chest. And remember, a lot of us are chest breathers, so there is no right or wrong there. Obviously, we want to encourage our breath to be deeper. We don't want to always be breathing in our chest. But it's about acknowledging it, noticing it, and then making those little changes and creating new habits, more positive habits. But anything stress related, anxiety, tension, if we're in fight or flight, that tends to lead to chest breathing. So let's allow our nervous system to really soften. You are safe, you are supported. Now you can either stay here for these next few breaths, or you can start to fold forward. Now if you are up on the chair, this might feel a little unstable depending on what you're using underneath your feet. So I'm bringing my elbows to the insides of my knees and I'm bringing in a little forward fold. If you've got another chair in front of you, your feet could be tucked underneath the chair and you could rest your forearms on another chair, and that can be really lovely as well. But you can forward fold just a little bit, you can bring your hands down, you can round through your back. Inch your way in, see how it feels. If it feels really unstable, you come back up, or if it feels a little too far, then ease yourself back up. And let's take 5 more breaths. So in your mind, counting, breathing in 5, breathing out 5, and noticing what's happening if you're forward folding, noticing that compression in your stomach. If it feels quite tight, quite claustrophobic, you might lift up a little, or you might sense your breath in your back. So think about all this space that you've got in the back of your body. Your lungs are huge. So maybe you focus on breathing into the back of your lungs, the back of your body. How would that feel? Wherever you are, let's take a breath in to come all the way up. Hands to the outsides of your knees and bring them back together. From here, we're going to make our way to a tabletop. So coming to all fours and setting up your foundation. Let's move through a few rounds of cat-cow. You can do cat-cow seated, or if you want to change position, if you've been sat down a lot, then come to stand up, turn around, hinge forward from your hips, plant your feet firmly to the floor, hands firmly to the chair, and then we're moving the spine forwards and backwards. Inhaling to dip your belly, lift your sit bones, heart draws forward. Exhale as you tuck your tailbone under, round through your upper back, chin to chest. And the same thing if you're on the floor. You can keep going forwards and backwards, but feel free to move from side to side. Feel free to move your spine round in circles. Get curious about the different ways that your spine can move, all the different rhythms, patterns, movements that it can make. And then let's come back to a tabletop. And we're going to extend the right leg out behind us. And keeping it extended, we're going to take some little pulses. So we've done pulses with the knee bent, but we're going to just keep it extended. A couple more, making sure that you're breathing. And then taking your foot over to the left. So we're crossing it over, and we're going to place the foot down, and then we're going to lift it up, and we're going to take it over and out as wide. Obviously I've got a wall next to me, so I'm going to show you with the opposite leg. Taking it out as wide as you like. It may not go to that position. And then we're taking it all the way back over. So we're crossing. We have to work with whatever space we've got as well. So you might turn sideways on your mat. But then again, you know, walls and furniture and chairs, we just have to work with what we've got here. If you are up, same thing, taking it over, but you're going to need to bend into that standing leg. Okay, let's bring the knee and the foot back down to the floor, and let's take it over to the other side. Left leg extends out, and then we're taking those little pulses. And these can be done stood up as well. So if you are using the chair and you're bending over and this is causing any pressure in your low back, come to stand up, use the wall, hold on to it, and then we're keeping the front lifted, and it's like we're trying to kick behind us, but we're gently squeezing the left bum cheek. And then bringing that leg back to stillness, let's take it over, crossing it over. So if I'm on the chair, I'm going to need to bend into that standing leg, and then I'm taking it out to the side. So playing around with your range of movement. And then maybe muscles that start chatting to you. So if they do, come to pause, maybe give it a shake out, give it a little massage. And then let's come back to our tabletop. Stepping your right foot to your right hand. Maybe your hands come up onto blocks. If you're on the chair, stepping your right foot around the side of the chair and your left foot back. So it's more of a warrior one stance, but we're bending over. But then we are going to rise up. You can always lift your back heel, or you can keep the heel grounded. And you can keep your hands to your heart, you can reach your arms forward, or you can reach your fingertips up towards the sky. Now remember simplicity. So maybe this is just what you want. This is the simple low lunge. We are gently stretching out the left hip flexor. We're grounding through the feet. We're finding strength in our legs, a lift through the crown of the head. But if you want to bring a little bit of movement in, let's start to ease forwards and backwards through the legs, or upper body movement, fingertips on shoulders, and we're circling round. And there's nothing wrong with adding these little bits on. So when I say simple, I don't mean just, it doesn't have to always be still. Let's move with our breath. Inhale, elbows up, and exhale, roll them back and down. If you're moving forwards and backwards, inhaling forward, exhaling back. And then bringing your hands back down to floor or blocks. If you're standing, you can do the same thing. You can be shifting forwards and backwards. You might keep your hands down on the chair. Allow that back heel to lift if it needs to. You could be up here, fingertips on shoulders, and rolling your elbows, rolling through your shoulder joints. And we're going to make our way back to our tabletop, or back to that starting position. Have a little shake out of your hips. And then stepping the left foot to the left hand, or stepping your left foot round the left side of the chair, stepping your right foot back a little, and making your way into your low lunge on this side. Hands could always stay down to blocks as you shift forwards and backwards. You might be up here. So same thing on this side as you did on the first side. Honouring any imbalances. Really checking in. And then bringing your hands back down, coming back to that starting position. Hands to either a couple of blocks or to the floor. Spread your fingers, tuck your toes, lift your hips to the sky, and we're shifting our hips back, pressing the ground away from us with our hands, and we're in our downward facing dog. And maybe a little pedal out through the legs here. If you're on the chair, hands to the chair, walk your feet back, bend into your knees just a little bit, hinge from your hips, and allow your head to move down between your upper arms. It might not be there completely, so don't worry about that. Stretching through the upper back, the shoulders, down the spine, backs of legs. And we're going to make our way to the top of the mat into a forward fold. So either walking your feet to your hands, or you can come back down to a tabletop and then step one foot forward and then the other. Press down to your heels, let your upper body hang heavy. Slowly roll up through your spine. And once you're up, a roll of your shoulders. Shake out of your arms. And we're going to come to stand with the feet a little bit wider than hips. Now you can hold something in your hands if you want to, like a block, or if you've got a light weight, that can work too. But don't worry if you haven't got anything, you can just pretend that you're holding something. And we're going to bring our object down towards our right hip. And we're going to take it, we're going to sweep it all the way up and over past our right shoulder. Now, as I'm reaching up, I'm twisting, and my back heel, my right heel is having to lift as I'm turning. And I'm reaching up and across, bringing it into a twist. Take a breath in, and then exhale as you come all the way back, and we're bringing the thing, the block, the object, down towards the hip again. And we're going to do that a couple more times. So this is why it helps to have something in your hands. Inhaling to reach up, look over, we're coming into a twist, and then we're coming all the way back down. So exploring this movement, think of it as a wood chopper. Make sure you're not holding the breath, and really tune into what your legs are doing. So I think sometimes we can kind of just plant the feet down and then we're focusing on the upper body because that's the bit that's moving, but actually our whole body needs to work as one. Reaching and sweeping up, coming up onto the tiptoes, and then we're going to bring it back to center, and we'll go over to the other side. Might feel different on this side. Let's see. So we're reaching. So as I'm coming and reaching up, you might have noticed that my toes on this side started to turn out. So my body is preparing for this movement as I'm reaching up, and I've got a bit of a thing going on with my hip on this side at the moment, so it might be that my body is just warning me, or my range of movement is slightly different on this side. And then bringing it all the way back down, and I'm coming into a twist on this side as well. of really good daily functional movements. So it's getting your body used to moving in different ways. Our body is designed to move in a variety of ways, and I think we get so stuck in our habits. And this might not seem simple. I know it is about simplicity, but this might not seem like a simple movement. So I hope it's making sense. Remember, you can always ask, always get in touch. It is fairly straightforward. It's more about just having trust in yourself, trusting that your feet are gonna play ball. You can also do this sitting down. So don't feel like you have to be standing feet to the floor. It's gonna, obviously your legs aren't gonna be as involved. I'll bring it down to this side. So you're starting off down on one side and then you're reaching up and over. My left hip kind of comes forward a little bit. But you don't have to reach all the way behind. Okay, let's bring it back to center. And if you're holding on to something, you can keep holding on to it. We're going to turn our toes out, step your feet a little bit wider. They might already be in this position from doing this movement. And we're going to take a breath in, reach your arms up. You can keep holding on to your prop. And then exhale as you sink your hips down, and we'll bring the prop in between our legs. And we'll bring the prop down with us. And if you're using a block, maybe it comes to the floor for support. We're coming into our squat. So your heels may lift and you can place some blocks underneath them so that you've got support there. You can stay quite high. Really good for building strength in your glutes, your quads, your calves, your feet. We're building up movement and mobility in the hips, in your knees as well. So really good for strengthening the muscles around your knees. You might be down to the ground and your feet might be flat to the floor. Or maybe you just need a little seat to keep you supported. And if you're on the chair, so there's always a different way. There's always a different version. Your feet, these blocks aren't as sturdy, so I would try and find something that is a little sturdier, but hopefully you can see. I'm going to turn to face you. Placing the feet up. So quite similar to Baddha Konasana. We're getting into the hips, bringing the knees up, length through the spine, and we'll breathe. Okay, slowly easing your way out. If you're on the chair, you can place your feet back down. If you are on the floor already, hands down to floor or blocks. Find something to support you as you lift your hips, turn your toes to face forward, and you're in a forward fold. And we're going to make our way back down to the ground. So slowly easing yourself down, come to sit, blocks to one side. Make sure you've got anything with you that you want to use for final relaxation. So if you're feeling chilly, maybe putting a cardigan on, having a blanket nearby, putting some socks on, and a pillow nearby if you want pillow under your head. But let's come to lie down. Knees bent, feet to the floor, arms down by the sides of your body. And then we're going to lift the hips. Take a breath in as you peel your spine away from the floor. Bringing it into a gentle back bend. You can stay here, hips lifted, strong legs. If you want more rest, placing a block underneath your sacrum and then resting down in supported bridge. You can have 2 blocks underneath if you want, and resting your pelvis like a bowl on the block, so it's not on your spine. This one feels quite nice, so I actually encourage you to have a go at the supported bridge. If you are on the chair, you could bring your hands behind you, sit close to the edge, hands behind you on the chair, and then lifting your chest at the back bend. Or you could come to stand, gently press your hips forward, so you're opening up through the front of your body. Another option could be to place your foot on the chair, step forward a little bit, place your foot on the chair and slide it back, so you're opening up through the front of the hip. So we're trying to find, in our bridge, we're really opening up through the front of the body, stretching down the hip flexor. So what position could we find here that does the same? So this one works pretty good. It's just getting the foot up on the chair that can be a bit of an issue. I think I've done this one before, sitting on the edge of the chair, sliding it back and then lifting. There we go. Hands could be behind you. So you do one side, take a few breaths there, and then go over to the other side. If you can lie on a bed, then try the supported option. Okay, so once you have taken, so let's take a few more breaths. And we're starting to wind it down. Press through your feet, lift your hips, sliding your props out, rolling your spine down and making your way into Shavasana for your final relaxation. So really layering up any props. As I said, let's not be simplistic with our props. Find a position that feels really comfortable right now, where you can really let your body let go of that practice. I hate using the word let go, but decluttering. Maybe a few deep sighing breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Putting that practice to one side, so anything that you did or didn't do, anything you might hold on to with negativity, let's try not to do that. There might be things that you want to work on, and that is absolutely fine. There's a reason why we do the asana, there's a reason why we practice physical movements. Of course, we want to make change and transformation, but we have to start with love and compassion, because then we know that we're doing it from the right place. We're not going to force or hurt ourselves. doing it to support our bodies as we move through life. Whatever stage we're at. Feel free to stay here as long as you like. If you feel like you need to rest a little more and there's no one telling you to get up, then stay as long as you like. But if you are ready to move, take a moment to check in, scan through your body, really observe how you're feeling, how that practice might have impacted you. You might even bring your hands back to that space just underneath your rib cage. Taking 3 to 5 more breaths, deep breaths, or repeating any intentions that you might have set. And as I said, there might be things that you're holding on to, but is there anything that you need to leave behind from this practice, and anything that you can take away with you? Anything that is going to support you. Slowly bending into your knees, placing your feet to the floor, rolling to one side, and using that top hand to press yourself up, roll up through your spine, and take a moment to find a comfortable seat, sitting up. And if you wish to join me, bringing your hands into prayer, the heart space. Scooping up all of the love, the gratitude for yourself, your amazing body, amazing breath. Giving thanks for everything that it can do and everything that it does do for you. Take a deep breath in. Let it out with a sigh as you bow your head. Bowing down to yourself. Bowing down to anybody that might have joined you in this practice. And a huge thank you from me. I bow down to you. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this practice. Here's to more simplicity, living simply, decluttering, getting rid of anything that you don't need in your life at the moment, having a spring clean ahead of spring, maybe. And have a great day, evening, week. Bye. Have a wonderful day or week, and I will see you soon. Take care.